All right, welcome back to another episode of Sub CLE. Today it's actually really cool because I used to play in a band when I was a child, and the first stage I ever played on was at Flash's over at Cam's Corner over there. Really good memories. A lot of stuff's happened. Actually, a lot of the guests that were on this show, it comes up quite a bit. So today we have. The owners of, well, one's off camera, and we have Gio. Gio,
Hi, man. How
thanks,
are you?
thanks for coming by, man.
Thanks.
Yeah, I also have Trip here. He does the Rust Belt reactions.
Hola.
You know what that's, and we have Gio's lovely wife off camera here, and she might not say anything. I don't know, but the phone a friend.
Yeah.
So okay, so normally what I like to do is I like to usually it's artists or musicians that are on.
You're
right?
going to get this from a totally different perspective today.
Yeah.
I want to say that it's been 29 and a half years, and if I had $1 for everybody that asked me to participate in something,
Yeah.
be it a reunion, some kind of Flashes thing, and I said I can't do that because there's so many genres of metal that
Right.
I did, I'd have to have a Woodstock of, or I cheat out a genre of music. So I've
Right.
said no to many, many, many people. Some are very prominent folks in Cleveland, and I've chosen just to keep memories.
Yeah.
And that's been purposeful because apparently in the short life of Flashes, which was about 5.5, 6 years or so.
Is that all it was?
That's it.
Wow. Yeah.
But it apparently impacted a lot of people's lives
Yeah.
And-
It sure did.
in a positive way, and sometimes those positive memories need to stay just that. And that's why, but you guys twisted my arm hard enough, and here I am to.
Well, the leg was already damaged, so we had to work
Yeah.
on your upper
So
extremity.
So here I am at 67 years old almost.
Yeah. Well,
Looking
here we go.
fantastic, by the way.
yeah, actually, yeah, I was going to say that too. You look great. The one thing is, 5.5 years. It's just funny to me because there are so many memories, and it kicked off. I had Aaron Dallison on here, and we were talking about Flashes, and he moved here from Virginia. He was talking about how, because everyone was talking about this club Flashes, and like I said, I saw Pantera there, White Zombie, all kinds of bands. I mean, I can't even begin to list. But so how did that come to be? Were you a musician, or were you just an entrepreneur? What happened?
That's a great question. No, I'm not a musician.
Okay.
I never was.
Okay.
I decided to take on entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And I had a friend that I was very close with that ran a nightclub, is a manager of a nightclub, an old nightclub down in the Kent area called Filthy McNasty's. Okay. It's a very large club. And he said, hey, let's buy something, and I'll run it for you. I said, all right, let's give it a go. Mm-hmm. So I started searching around town, and I was pretty young. I was in my early 30s.
Okay.
Had little exposure besides just going out to clubs and and I enjoyed live music. So I thought bigger's better, right?
Yeah.
Didn't know that there was cost centers associated with all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up coming upon what was called Flash Gordon's at the time. And, of course, I put my heart and soul into that, and almost every dime I had to buy this place with, a 5-year plan to pay it off.
Okay.
Pay off the previous owner. And it was a dance club. It was an old time dance club.
Yeah.
That was rather popular.
Yeah.
And put a whole lot of people in the place. And this owner wanted to get into more into the jewelry gig and pawn shops, and his family was kind of bailing on him, so he sold it to me.
Okay.
And this manager lasted, I think it was a month,
6 weeks,
maybe 6 weeks. He was just not work.
Yeah.
Things weren't working out, and we were still doing the dance club thing, and so I fired him.
Oh, okay.
Period, straight up. And it was just myself and at the time my girlfriend MaryAnn. And we said, oh boy, what are we going to do now? So we kind of stumbled and bumbled around. I took down one of the bars on the side of the building that was closest to Lorraine Avenue and made it a little stage, because somebody said, you really need to start doing bands here. It's a perfect place for that. And I had some folks tell me, to talk to an old friend of yours, Gary Jurist, 8th Day Sound. So Gary put in a sound system for me and a light system for me, and then we started doing Moonlight Drive and
Oh yeah.
a lot of the town touring bands.
Yeah.
And nobody was showing up for them because they could see that same band tomorrow night on the east side of town, or
Right.
just up the street, or
Yeah.
they were gigging they were gigging 5 days a week. So it became something, and I had this massive 10,000 square foot facility.
Yeah.
So I had to figure something else out, and it sort of just migrated into doing local talent, but I again through an awful lot of people that I just try to treat like a human being.
Yeah.
They gave me advice, and they said, this side of town is filled with a lot of talent that plays their own or does their own original music.
Yeah.
So I
Shadows closed, and they said, why don't you do that music?
I'm sorry.
Shadows closed on Brook Park.
Yeah,
Oh,
Shadows.
so there was a
closed on
club
Brook
called
Park.
Shadows or something?
Yeah, there was a club on
I
Brook
remember
Park.
the name, but I don't think I've ever been in it.
Yeah. So, there was this big void that became evident to me, So I started, doing some acts, and I said, and that was bringing in a few people, but I said, geez, I need to get bigger yet, you know? So, love-hate relationship I had with this guy. His name was Mitch Karcheski.
Okay.
But he was managing about 4 or 5 bands.
Okay.
And he started to bring them into my facility because he worked out a very equitable deal between he and I, and those bands were kind of popular. And then, started hearing there were some problems that related between Mitch and the bands and such. So, we just started booking acts at my club, and one thing led to another, and then there were, and everybody I tried to treat as fairly as I would like to be treated. And that really trickled down to becoming like, friends,
Yeah.
like a town bar kind of thing for hard rock and heavy metal. It just started perpetuating. And then I got lucky and had a promoter bring Fugazi in.
Oh, nice.
And, of course, that's a $5 show.
Yeah.
And I didn't know who Fugazi was, right? I just, guy guaranteed that this place would be overwhelmed with people. And I said, okay, $5 a ticket.
Yeah.
It's your gig. Do it, And sure as hell, it just packed the place. But
Sure, I bet.
it got it started to get a lot of kids involved in the location. And then I was lucky enough, to be approached by, although it never worked out, Michael Belkin approached me because I started to get a little bit more popular.
Yeah.
And Michael just wanted too much for Michael.
Right.
And I said, no, that just won't work. The ticket prices you're charging are just too much for the people.
Right.
That was my opinion.
I'll tell you, that's something that rings true today. You know?
Yeah, I guess these shows are outrageous. I was just looking into going to see Santana, and I almost was floored by the cost of the tickets.
And you know, most, well, I'm not going to say most of the cost, but a lot of the cost, I think I think I read somewhere, I could be wrong. I think I said this before on this. It's like more than 50% of the cost is just the fees and the servicing. And
well, there's fees, and there's also riders, and there's also equipment.
Yeah.
And, the sound and light demands.
Yeah.
And as the club began to progress, and I'm kind of moving through this rather quickly, but as the club progressed, and, the better talent agencies and record labels began to notice
You're on
me.
the map now.
Yeah. And certainly some of the things that I used to do for these traveling bands are, 1,000 seats and under, they're just coming up. And these promoters in other cities were just, giving them pizza and chicken and stuff like that. Well, when these bands would come in, we contracted with a caterer, one that caters weddings. Typically would bring in a catering service to a hall. And when the band was coming into town, and I didn't care whether they were small, big, we just sent this information out ahead to the talent agency that when this band comes into town, can they just pick? And they got a menu of meat, just like you would at a wedding.
Sure.
Including desserts.
Yeah.
And the day of, this caterer would come in, set up the tables with this hot food, and these bands were blown away.
That's awesome.
And consequently, the bands began to go back and tell the record labels about this place in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And so the phones began to ring.
Yeah.
But again, I had some pretty stiff competition with Michael Belkin booking shows, Peabody's wanting to book shows.
Yeah.
The Ciola's trying to book, shows,
Yeah.
and of course Mr. Lacani trying to book shows.
Yep.
So it became a bidding war.
Yeah.
And I became very close friends with people that wrote newspapers like U.S. Rocker, The Patrol,
I had
Scene
Sean
Magazine,
on from U.S. Rocker. He was on here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also
No.
and also all the college, the college radio stations.
Yeah.
They're just little 5,000 watters, but those guys, they became friends with me. And they would give me advice. I'd call them up and say, I don't know much about this band.
Yeah.
Can you tell me, how popular they might be?
Yeah.
And then I started getting phone calls that this band is touring. Joe, you need to buy them because they're a pretty good band. So it's not me, is what I'm trying to say. The way that the Flashes became this thing is really nothing to do with me. It has to do with the way you treat people and the way people treat you.
And I was going to say that it is you because because the way you treat people, that you're not. The one thing that kind of stands out with what you've been saying is you're not sitting here saying, "Well, I was doing it all for the money." What you're saying is, I know, yeah, right. No, I know, and that's what I'm saying. That's why I think it was successful is because you the one thing that I had to write it down is you said I treat people like they're human beings, and I think that goes a long way. And obviously, we're sitting here talking about it after all these years now, So I think it is you you to have that understanding. That just treat people like human beings. Well, a lot of entrepreneurs and business people don't do that.
That's what I've seen over the years.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of egos with both business owners, club owners.
Yeah.
They're in it sometimes for the wrong reasons,
right.
and they don't give the respect. I respect a musician. I'm not a musician.
Yeah.
So I respect the creation of a sound and music.
Yeah.
I truly do. It's an art form unlike anything I could ever do.
Yeah.
And my part was to put a vehicle together for them to display their talent as best possibly in the city of Cleveland. Hence, that stage grew to 4 feet tall, came out another 10 feet, 8x8 drum riser, 120 cans of lights, over 10,000 watts of power for a local band. Of course, that same vehicle also put Pantera, White Zombie, Tool,
Trouble.
That was
Tool played there. I didn't know that.
Well,
That's a story.
that's
That's about Tool.
a quick story about Tool.
Sure.
I got same talent agency, same label that had Pantera and White Zombie.
Yeah.
Had a band. I got a call one afternoon out of the blue from a talent agency in New York saying, "Hey, Gio, I got a band coming across, trying to get from L.A. to New York, to work on their first album. They're going to be great." Mm-hmm. He said, "They're not traveling with any instruments. Is there any night or anything you can do? Then they'll just do it for food. Can they swing by?" I said, "Well, when are they going to be coming through Cleveland?" He said, "This week, Monday, Tuesday." I said, "I've got a night that I've created for local talent to showcase themselves, and we call it a musician's night. It's the same name used all over the country." I said, "This band can, we put a band set up on stage. We put the drums up there. I mean, it may not be anything that, but it's sufficient." And he said, "That'll work perfectly on Tuesday." So we fed them when they came into town, treated them like, they came in on a little tour bus, and there was about 150 kids there. Put them on right when the peak hit with the amount of audience, and there was probably about 150 people there.
Yeah,
maybe slightly more for a Tuesday. That's pretty good, right? And it was Tool.
Yeah,
and that band blew those people away, blew us away.
Yeah,
I mean,
Completely different animal.
just completely in your face kind of stuff. And that's the same talent agency that said, "I've got this new band touring the country." You said if you and it was a big stiff amount of money. At the time, it's nothing today, but back then, $3,000 to put a band on stage that was relatively unknown. Via all my talent, the people at the radio stations and such all said, "They're coming," but their music sounds great. Their name was Pantera, and the gig was, I'll give you the second tour with Pantera if you take them now." How many people, MaryAnn? I think 26 people showed up for that first show.
One,
It was empty.
yeah.
I think it was just, it hurt. It was painful. The next
Pantera,
time they came through, came through with an opening act.
Was it the Trouble? Was it Pantera and Trouble? Or?
Pantera with White Zombie opening.
I was at that one.
Yeah. And that was,
it was great because Phil, when he was upset with the guards or the bouncers in the front, so he told everyone to just go up on stage, and we were just all up on stage jumping around.
And you know what? Momentarily, then right after that, he said, "Get him off stage."
Oh, really?
Really? Now you want him?
yeah.
So in case anybody didn't hear,
there was some shit there.
Phil was calling for people to.
I mean, there was so many cool people. I mean, some patrons became part-time help. Some of the regulars that came in, "Hey, we need some extra security at the stage. Can you can you help out?" And hell yeah, I need some help, roadie and bringing stuff in. These were just patrons that enjoyed coming for this music that I was putting on the stage. And it went, even though you say it's a metal, metal club, there's so many versions of metal.
Yeah.
I mean, there's death metal. There's, all sorts of,
so many thing going for a while there,
I mean, I mean, I tried to do some, we tried to deviate a little bit. It wasn't not successfully with doing bands like Shabba Ranks and Inner Circle. Those didn't work on the west side of Cleveland, man.
Didn't First Light play there too?
First Light played there.
That one.
and then there was a whole bunch of people got a chance, mostly through musicians' night. I mean, the kids I'd get there on a typical Tuesday. We'd probably get there around 3-4 o'clock. The parking lot on musicians' night already had a massive amount of people there. Yeah. It's like a Browns tailgate party.
Right.
They're playing hacky sack. They're freaking grilling out there on the parking lot.
Sure.
Because we posted. When did you post? When we posted the sign-up sheet,
I thought it was like
6
2 o'clock or something. I thought my memories were gone, but
it was.
I remember it was early.
It was like 4 o'clock.
Was it 4?
It was about 4 o'clock. We posted sign-up sheet,
Yeah.
and they were out there, and that's why they were there, because they wanted to be able to be early enough for their friends.
You could say,
to come and see,
I was one of them. You were one of them.
I was a fixture up there every Tuesday night,
and it was cool because, because I had Mark Sobre, and he has Rock and Roll City Studios, and one of the things that I said was always cool about that was just the community that of all the bands that are there, and I met a lot of people just in that parking lot waiting for the sign-up sheet. All the bands would mingle with each other and meet each other, and it was like a little community, It was cool.
It kind of turned out to be that way.
Yeah.
And
I wanted to share something about my experience on musicians' nights. Sometimes I didn't make it into work on Wednesday mornings, and when I did, I ended up puking by my machine and throwing floor dry over it and going about my business again. It was all beer.
yeah.
Well, how much were the beers? Do you remember?
They were
like $1 or something.
Yeah, they weren't very expensive back then.
Money, so.
I mean,
so we got in free. We had cheap beer. What more could you ask for?
And what ended up happening was I took a backstage to the whole event. It wasn't there wasn't any special giveaways, although we did things like musicians. We did like Find the Bud Man. I remember on Tuesday.
Okay.
And I still got
I forgot about that.
I still got the
What?
Yeah.
What was that?
It's a little. It was a beer tap.
Yeah.
Budweiser beer tap was his Bud Man. He was like a little thing with cape, right?
Yeah.
He was like a little superhero. He stood about, I still have him. He stood about, 9 inches high, and he had mirrored glasses. Okay, so he would reflect. We would hide him somewhere, and if you found the Bud Man, you got $50. And it became.
Where did you get that?
We had to hide this little bastard in the damnedest of, because it became at first it was too easy.
Yeah.
It caught on, and the kids were coming in, and just they were spending all kinds of time looking around this place for the Bud Man. So we had to get real creative. So only a portion of that Bud Man could be seen, and sometimes they couldn't find him, and the price went. It was like.
Part of the challenge.
It's like part of the challenge, and
a bunch of drunk musicians walking around.
Look, is that the Bud Man? Is that because sometimes you can only see his glasses?
Yeah.
It was fun for me.
Yeah.
I forgot all about that.
Watching y'all do that.
Yeah, we used to hide him all over the place, and just do fun shit like that caused the kids to want to come just to come,
Right.
and of course
$50 or whatnot.
they're
Imagine throwing a party every night, hoping to God someone would walk in that door.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was.
Yeah, so this stupid little thing that I put together just because I you can't just come to me and tell me I've got for me to put a band on stage with you've got some equipment here and you guys are in bands, so you have when you put a 40 it was a 32 channel that grew to a 40 channel because of demand. And a light man and a sound man that are there to at your beck and call on how you wish us to work for you.
Right.
And those things cost a lot of money. I just couldn't put anybody up there. So and we had some raw talent address that. dressed that stage on Tuesday to the point where it was almost like the Gong Show.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
My sound guy it was just so bad I got to turn him off.
I was gonna say I was probably one of those bands. You guys are like, what the hell?
Well, I remember you giving me a piece of advice one time, and you might relate to this, Vince, because you always say I don't talk enough in the mic and I mumble. And I remember
I never said you mumble. But.
I'm a mumbler. But one time we won one of your Battle of the Bands there, and after we won, I guess we got like some equipment and recording time at Right Track Studio, and you said, you guys are pretty good, but you need to enunciate a little more.
Yeah, probably the biggest thing that people remember that were bands that coming up, Cleveland bands or bands. I mean, I was starting to get bands from Columbus, from all over the place, wanting to play, and the only vehicle they had was Tuesday night. And if they didn't have any notoriety at all, and when I did book a band, because the place was so big, you had to book a grouping of bands every night that you weren't doing national entertainment. Yeah. And we were strategic. We'd have a high school band, and then followed by an older band and an older band and maybe a fourth band. Yeah. And I would, upon signing a contract, for those that were ever in my office, they got a bit of a schooling that was beyond their music. It was a business school. Mm-hmm. You got a chance to play on a stage that maybe your peers have played on. Sure. Certainly one that's going to be larger than anything available to you in this town.
That's me right here.
And I'll run you guys present your flyer. I'll run you copies. Mm-hmm. We had a marketing meeting on what it's going to take, and dead serious, because if you want to play again, you've got to produce, and that's business. That's the business side of Geo. And I spent a lot of time with bands, and some of them I've come across in the years past, flashes, and that's one of the things they remembered was, being taught the business side of marketing for a band. Once you produce a band and produce a sound that's marketable, now you just entered the war.
Right.
How are you gonna win this race?
Well, and that's the thing too, because when you're young and you're in a band, you think that people are just going to find you and things are going to happen and you're going to get that strike of lightning or whatever. I was a little too young. I did meet you back in the day, probably at a musician's night or something like that. But I remember when we were going into Peabody's and I was talking to Dan Call. I had Dan Call on this podcast as well, and he told me too. He's like, hey man, if you just want to do it for the art and whatever, that's awesome. Just do it then. But if you want to play out and it's a business. It is.
Well, I don't know if you mentioned on camera or we were talking before we started recording. Yeah. You mentioned Mitch, and Mitch took a different approach than you did. You guys kind of went two different directions with how you handled bands and the marketing, and I think he was the pay-to-play guy.
Yeah,
that started.
I don't know the full story behind that. You've had some artists on that were in Mitch's management in the past.
Yep.
And they can probably speak to him a little better than I.
Yeah.
What I didn't care for was the tussle that went on between the bands and the manager and such. And I did the best.
He treated some of the bands better than the other
bands.
It's kind of like you got to treat everybody with an equal amount of respect.
Right.
Until the time comes where you can't anymore.
Yeah.
And there were, and I'll be quite frank with you, there's probably some people that listen to your podcast that have a different opinion of me. And and that's okay. They have the right to an opinion.
Yeah.
And I hope they've grown up to understand that, all you guys had day jobs. This was my livelihood.
Right.
And no, I wasn't making a lot of money at the time. It became labor of love.
Yeah.
And for MaryAnn and I, and we had we had rent to pay. I did not own the business and the property.
Okay.
That wasn't mine when it got torn down. It was owned by somebody else.
Okay.
But I did have 8 years left on my lease that they had to take care of in a negotiation. But at the time, Mayor White was the mayor of Cleveland, and fear of God was put on my shoulders that if I didn't settle for the money that they were offering, they were going to present eminent domain, and I would get a fraction of what they offered.
Oh wow!
So
is it was Walgreens or something? Is that
it's
what
a
that
wall
was? Yeah.
today? It's a wall. There's and they started charging money for the parking lot. When cars would pull in, that wasn't me either. It was it was the owner of the. It was the owner of the.
You have to clean up all the broken glass.
Yeah, and all the leftovers.
Yeah.
I had
Their best, but
the guy that owned the guy that managed the that movie theater next door was on the owner's payroll, and they decided to take advantage of the people parking in that parking lot by charging, I think it was $1 or $1.50 a car, and I frowned on that heavily.
I've seen that.
Yeah, there's little sheds still there, I guess, but
I remember seeing a sign for the first time. Like, what is this shit?
Yeah.
yeah. And I got
cars would be on that side street in the back there. Cars would just be like packed all back there. When I was 15 years old and I'd steal my mom's car and I didn't even have a driver's license, parking on that street back
I thought I was the only one that did that. But yeah, that all that stuff, I had nothing to do with it. It was somebody else trying to take advantage of my success, and then on top of it, we had to hire the big machine, the street sweeper, to come in every Monday and do a job on the parking lot.
So it wasn't your choice to shut that business down. It was
not at all.
It was definitely it's like a corporate.
It was a forced buyout.
Yeah,
it really was. And MaryAnn and I spent a number of months looking for somewhere else that A, had parking, B, was in proximity for people to go to. I mean, I looked down in the flats. There was a business on the east, on the West Bank,
Metropolis.
Called Metropolis or Triple E.
Trilogy.
Yeah, Trilogy.
It was both. Yeah.
And it was just so. I mean, it was a nice big place, gorgeous big place, but no parking, and the
mining company
and the cost was nearly double. And the mining, and what was the mining company
over in Parma there?
Over in Parma. It's great, but there was no egress.
Yeah.
And the second
pyro, the band's like pyro.
Right.
And the ceilings were low, and even worse than that, it was well known that the Parma police weren't letting these kids weren't letting you leave the parking lot.
Yeah.
They would, they were forcing your business to become small. They were forcing it. They wouldn't have been able to take the volume of flashes.
Right.
There was just one facility that I was really interested in, and it didn't work out. It was on Brook Park Road at the end of Chevy Boulevard. There is a building set back from the street with a big parking lot in the front of it.
Isn't that like a banquet hall or something now? Or something?
I don't know what it is, but they weren't interested in entertaining us. Okay. So at the end of the day, we kind of reluctantly, nothing was, because I didn't have any backing. I didn't have, it was just me and against the world. In fact, I'll never forget this wonderful lady. Her name was Jane Scott. Came to visit me cold one day. And again, same thing. People were asking, what's flashes? So Jane finally came over and she asked me what my success, she's heard so much about me. And I said, you just, and I just said you have to establish cool. Cool means, people that are coming think the place is cool. The bands that are playing think the place is cool.
Right.
And I've done my job. Yeah. People, if you've got a band and people want to come and see you, but they don't want to go to the place because it's like the Agora, in a terrible part of town, you're not going to succeed. Right. That's what we put together.
I've said this like about restaurants and it just even corporate world. I've worked for some corporate entities and it's like it usually starts from the top down. It's like so if I go into a restaurant and the bartender's kind of shitty with me or something, that's because somebody above them is treating them shitty. Right. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like you can tell how a place is managed by the service you get. And I think what you're kind of drawing on is like you said, it goes back to treating people like people. When you do that, look at what can be done. You know what I mean? When you're not just out for yourself and looking for a profit or looking for gains or whatever, you know what I mean?
That all comes with mutual, you don't command respect, you earn it.
Yeah.
You flat out earn respect.
Right.
And back in the day, we didn't have the vehicle called the internet.
Right.
I mean, I had hired a person.
You had
God rest her soul, Vicky. We printed out calendars and went to every music store and record store there was. We had about a 30-store route that she would do every week, and then every time that store would be kind enough to call us and tell us they were out of calendars, that we'd run back over and do our marketing for you. Yeah. And those scene ads, back in the day, they were $1,000 a week. Just to put the band's names on them, big enough for people to find us. And those were all things that I knew was something that I could do to help this thing.
Well, if it's any consolation, I don't know. Well, I don't think I ever like headline flashes or anything like that, but the appreciation of seeing your band's name in one of those things is really.
That's why when puts on, she has a Facebook page, flashes.
Yeah.
I didn't start that.
Who started it?
Okay.
We don't know.
A gentleman that used to work for the old Flash Gordons.
Okay.
And it was originally meant to be like for the dance people. And it turned into being about the time that George went.
It was like, it started out, MaryAnn heard about this and it was like, okay. And then all of a sudden it was like a tidal wave. The guy's original intent was squelched, and all of a sudden, all us metal guys were in, we're totally into it, and
there came a time where I almost stopped.
It was
because of a young lady who accused us of ripping off the bands, that we didn't pay the bands accordingly, and I was like, you know what, I don't need to do this, and a lot of people chimed in and said, please continue.
Yeah. That's just the internet in general. No matter what you do, you're going to have a hater of some sort.
Well, I think, it opened, like what the internet did was it opened up like everybody's opinion, whereas like these people would have shitty opinions, but they just had no platform or any kind of way to get it out there.
Everybody's got it.
So she must have been the bad.
Well, so you started the man. If you could just pull this closer to you.
Is it hot in here or am I fat?
It's hot in here.
You're just having a hot flash.
But so the Facebook page, so that wasn't started by you, but you run it now though.
I don't run it. I just.
Oh,
post.
You don't.
No,
you just post.
No, you're on the management team.
I'm one of the members. There's 3 of us, and 2 of the other gentlemen were from the original Flashes.
The real Flash Gordon.
I see.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they don't know you guys. They don't know any of us.
Okay.
I'll call it us because I still call it a family.
Yeah.
And so MaryAnn kind of administers it, Okay. In fact, what about 3-4 years ago, MaryAnn came up to me, just a regular old ordinary day. She said, "Hey, can I post some of the stuff that we've got in those boxes, And I said, hell, I don't care. Just don't post anything, that's graphic in any way. Sure. I don't want to get sued. And she said, no, I just want to do some of the, and some of the ads and stuff. And I said, okay, well, knock yourself out. And it just is unbelievable how many people
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah.
that.
That's a lot of our past.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean,
well, for me at least, I was, we were coming of age, you know what I mean? And those are, you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
like everybody's like favorite music is like just so happens to be the best music that ever happened was when you were 18 years old. You know what I mean?
Or so you thought.
Right.
yeah. One songs you hear and reflect back.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that we were in a position where Metallica was winning some major awards on a grand scale, and metal was pretty prominent. The word alternative was just starting, but metal was probably having its best years ever from a popularity standpoint, and Cleveland was starving for this. And in my humble opinion, and there'll be some argument because I think the Beachland Ballroom and others do I don't know them well enough, but I have not yet seen somebody that has been able to create a music community at a single location.
Yeah.
Like we were able to create. And I say we because it's the bands, it's the people, it's my staff.
Well, I could say like, Peabody's, but I think that was inherited from the Flashes kind of thing. I mean, kind of, wasn't it? I mean, I don't know.
Dewey's.
Ask, I guess.
Yeah. But
Well, the fantasy, you still got the fantasy.
The fantasy, I mean, sure, there's places, but I think what really did it was the musicians' night on Tuesday nights when you had that camaraderie of musicians, just
Really?
kind of.
We did.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I, in my opinion, I mean, I was a child.
I mean, there was a well, a lot of bands came to be through that, and a lot of bands, like you say, a lot of band members created bands from that.
Yep.
We're looking for a guy.
Or just being, owning the club, you actually see the talent before you have to purchase it. Yeah.
Right.
You guys pretty good. We play
And
on
we
this
did,
gig,
we did what again, I've
That's how I
got.
found some of the high school, like the Lesser Squid. Those guys were just kids.
I remember.
Pot Roast. I mean, who names their band Pot Roast?
Yeah.
Or Hostile Amish, or
They're still
Yeah.
around.
Hostile
I
Amish.
believe it.
We just
Now, there's a funny story about Hostile Amish.
well, we just did Bedford is Burning. We do like a Rust Belt reaction, like, and we do all Cleveland bands, but just like kind of reaction videos to
That's
when
usually
we're,
the thing
as we're
on,
watching it,
YouTube
and that was
now,
the one
it's
that just dropped.
reaction videos.
Yeah.
Hostile Amish. Yeah.
So what's the Hostile Amish story?
It's kind of a funny story. There was a couple of parents that were, come to every show, and I remember one of the dads came up to MaryAnn and asked if there was any of the props that were left behind, could we please, let him know, because he had no more rakes, shovel handles, or anything that had a handle on it, because they'd break off the rake or shovel, and they would use the handle for the two on either side to churn. He said, "I have no tools left," and he was as dead serious as couldn't be.
If we have any alcohol,
He said he didn't want any. He'd buy a tool and they'd break it off, and because they'd left it at a club somewhere, he said, "Could you just hold on to them so they don't take my tools anymore?" I mean, even parents would get involved. I mean, MaryAnn had on many occasions, we got a call from a parent where a younger child, 15, 16 years old, was wanting to come to the club, and she would come and evaluate us to see if they would let that kid get dropped off at a nightclub. Come on,
ask for me. I'll walk you around. I'll show you what happens.
Yeah.
Your choice from that point, but sure, coming down and check it out. I mean,
we do all kinds of stuff behind the scenes. It's ridiculous.
That's cool. Okay, I want to do this, and then I want you to tell me the story about this. Flashes. Give it up for
Environmental hazard.
That was
That's
very-
very.
That was Barry. Yeah.
Okay, that's. I mean, everybody. If you mention Flashes, usually somebody does
that all the time. We still, Flashes, give it up for.
Yeah.
The last we heard of Barry, he was working at a Home Depot on North Olmsted. So everyone go out to North Olmsted
Okay.
Home Depot and look for the guy.
I would guess.
North Olmsted Home Depot. He's gonna be like Home Depot.
Yeah.
Give it up.
Give it up for.
Yeah, go on the speaker. Yeah, go on the speaker. The owner of this sound, please come forward.
That would be great. So what was he? What did
He Barry spun tunes. I mean, seriously, he before the night would start, as the crowd was coming in, during breaks between band setups, and any special events or things that we had going on. That because we always had some gig going on. Some kind of drink special or something going on that was just in-house kind of stuff. Yeah. Barry was scripted to do that work for me.
MC.
He was great at it.
And he would stay up in his little tower above the cooler.
Pay no attention.
All right.
Yeah. He's up there. He was up there, and he was there every day, and that's a testimonial to all my employees, unless they were in jail for some reason, which did happen on occasion. I had one of the most loyal staffs, and they came, and it's hard to say this, but they came because they wanted to. Yeah. I couldn't afford to pay them a lot of money. Right. The bands, myself, we didn't generate a lot of money, right. $4 a head, $6 if you're underage. It really doesn't generate a lot of money, and my doorman was a mathematical genius. And all he had was a simple task. We'd put these little coupons together and have them at the front desk. And if somebody, when they came in to pay, he'd simply ask them, "Who'd you come to see tonight?" Yeah. They had Band A, Band B, Band C, or none, and if they announced it, he'd just check it. He then put it in the box and put it in the box and put it in every single person. Instead of just checking IDs, taking money, he also had this additional monetary task. And then after the show, was concluding, and the majority of the people were in there, we'd go back and take each piece of paper and stack them up, and tell each band, because we had a pre-negotiated depending on the band, from 250, which was commanded by the Spud Monsters, because they drew so many drinkers, to as little as $1 a head for those that were high school bands, and the rest of the money had to go to paying my sound man, my light man, my electricity, my, the equipment rental. I had progressed beyond Gary Jurist, and went with Jeff Hare, called Aggressive Sound, and a subsequent light man when things got bigger. Yeah. And Jeff Hare at Aggressive Sound was a fabulous partner for me. He took care of everything. Blow out a speaker, taking care of that quick. Yeah. Not that night, but by the next show, done. He repaired, replaced. Wow. We never had crappy sound. No. We never had cans of lights that were 50% on, 50%. That not happening. No, top notch. Had to bring in a whole new electrical feed in, and to because the power had gotten so big, right. We almost broke the decibel record with Manowar towards
nice.
Yeah, we specifically
clad with loincloths.
Yeah, that was deafening.
That was Jeff's band.
That was Jeff's band, and we almost broke it, but he cracked. We had bass bins across the whole face of the stage to be able to produce enough sound. And I could feel. I walk out of my office and I could feel the concussion against my chest, 150 feet away. It was an intense day.
That might be because I just remember going to shows. I don't know if it was Flashes or whatever, but I just remember I loved going to shows just because when you didn't hear the bass drum, you felt it, in your chest,
Right.
And that was such a good, and with heavy metal, it's just constantly beating you.
You have that's part of the experience,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's part of my job. My job, I won't say my job. Our job was to produce that sound that was so powerful that bands that were playing on that stage, they needed to work to be there. And some people thought they were privileged, and Gio was the millionaire. Gio was no millionaire, not by any stretch of the imagination.
I a couple of years ago, I was thinking about it. I had a little bit of cash. I was like, I've told the story before on this, and everybody, except for maybe one person, like told me, don't get into the bar business because you can't make money. It's so difficult to make money doing it. But I see people doing it and making money. So I don't know.
Well, a lot of people do it, for a lot of the wrong reasons. Female attraction, male and female attraction is probably the, and I've never, I'll say it's happened, but it's harder if you partner with somebody.
Oh, I'm sure.
Very much harder if you partner with somebody. Yeah. But
tell them the gamble that you took the last night.
Oh yeah. Get this, I've got a sold out show.
Okay.
Last show of the.
It was the last show.
I was there. Show.
I actually had a panic attack because it was so packed in there.
Yeah, it was.
I couldn't move,
care.
and I was.
I wasn't going to deny anybody until it was until I had to.
Yeah.
And
I remember it was hard as fuck. Environmental
about 3 hours.
Slogan.
About 3 hours before that, about 4:00 in the afternoon, I get a call from my insurance company telling me that my insurance policy ended at midnight the day before.
Whoa!
Not the day of.
Jeez.
That's on the contract. So I and they wanted, and people are, business is ruthless. They wanted in excess of $4,000 for the coverage of one day.
Wow.
And I said, absolutely not. I'll take my risk.
He called me in the office
and of course threatened them to court if anything were to happen, because my contract, it was gray in that regard, whether it concluded the day or not. They said it did not include the day. Yeah, get closer, right? Yeah, intimate. They said it would include the day. I read it as would include the day, but it did not include the day. It was so they were trying to snaggle me for a few $1,000s. And that's another thing that you don't know as a bar owner.
Right.
Hidden fees.
Yeah.
Liquor liability insurance is outrageous.
Yeah, I bet.
And litigation for in liquor related issues.
Yeah. Well, I bartended for quite a bit of years recently, and you have to do the serve safe, and you're liable as a bartender. If somebody dies or something, you're responsible for serving.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I had plenty of these false things that happened. Yeah. Or if a person got into a car accident and said where they were, you get named in a lawsuit. Just to have legal retainage was in $5,000 increments, and I think my worst year was $20,000 in just legal retention. And liquor liability insurance back then was about $25,000 a year. Yeah. I mean, by far one of your biggest expenses. That's a lot of $2 bills. Beers.
Right.
It's a lot of $2 beers. So running a business is it's very challenging. Yeah. And I'm just so grateful that people thought so highly of my what we had put together to think of us when they wanted to do something on a Friday, Saturday.
Best memories of the Cleveland music scene is your club, shows you had, the experiences that I've had. I felt important. I felt that I was being listened to when I talk to you guys and do shows. Like you said, treat people like human beings, and hey, this is how it works. And if you want to make any money, you have to bring this many people in. You laid it out, no bullshit.
Yeah.
No hidden fees.
Honesty.
No, you knew right up front before you even said yes. I mean, every band signed a contract.
Speaking of, another thing that I love about your venue is between bands, they'd have a screen come down. They'd play promotional music videos for upcoming bands that are coming and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I'm in the office with a Gio and MaryAnn here, and I'm signing a contract. I was in the band Low Life at the time.
Okay.
And anyways, MaryAnn comes up to me. She goes, "You like Danzig, don't you?" I said, "Yeah, I love Danzig." She hands me these video tips. Like, "We can't play this here. Take it home with you." And it was a video of Danzig called "It's Coming Down," the uncensored version, which is nudity, a guy nailing a nail through his dick, all kinds of this crazy shit. It's like, oh, now I know why I can't play that there.
Yeah.
Don't forget, it was all ages.
Yeah.
And the record company, I guess, sent that to you for the promote. What are they thinking?
Volumes and volumes and volumes of at the time, VHS tapes and
I threw a lot of
CDs
that all
and
away,
oh my
too.
God, you have no idea how many I gave shopping bags away of product to people.
But I threw a lot of
I to this day I
You might have some gems in there.
Yeah, we do.
We probably do.
I have a lot of signed CDs, that bands
Posters,
played and
CDs.
signed photographs and I just gave away a guitar to a friend that was fond of Dimebag Darrell. I gave him a guitar pick that I had that was his. I don't have any reason for all this. I would love to.
If you need another place to dump anything,
I'd love to have a thrift buy. Like here's a bunch of stuff.
What do you collect? I'll look and see.
I mean, the last day we had all those posters on the walls that, from all the shows. We plastered the walls with posters and.
That took
Gosh,
me a
there's just
couple
so many
hours to
memories.
put every single poster that we had onto the walls for the last day. I mean, they were layered 5-6 deep all around the entire club, and when people came in, they just ripped. I'm like, take them. Yeah, we have no use for them. Just take them. Share with everyone. Why not?
Going back to the last show, and you said how packed it was. What was the official capacity of that room?
1,000.
More than it should.
Yeah. 1,000.
No, the official capacity was 780.
Okay.
Oh, really?
And I typically
So it went over that
the
much.
official capacity from the city.
Yeah. Oh,
but I regularly and marketed 1,000.
Okay.
And what do you think?
And that wasn't just 1,200.
Okay.
There was about 1,200 that day.
Why? I mean, I'm glad you did it because I probably wouldn't have got in otherwise. But what was the reason? Like, you were just like, fuck it, it's the last day, or
Yeah.
what? I mean,
it wasn't.
What else
fuck
could go
it.
wrong? We had no
It wasn't the
insurance.
last day.
No one knew it.
It was like
I mean, no one knew that. And he pulled me in the office an hour before doors and told me, and he was like, "And you can't tell anyone else." I'm freaking out. I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
He goes, "You and I are the only two that know this." He goes, "Keep everyone real calm."
Yeah.
So I had this guy walking around with this camera in my face and this huge light, and I'm just like, "Get the hell out of my face!" I mean, I'm trying to make sure everybody's calm and nobody gets hurt and nothing breaks, and
it was
it's a free for all.
it was just one of those days. I mean, you talk about that, and then phase reversal. How can somebody be successful doing rock and roll 6 nights a week and then turn around on a Sunday and bring in a completely different audience that would never come to a show on a dance night and pile in 400. I keep on jokingly say 400 losers that didn't get lucky on Friday or Saturday night. They showed up at my place on Sunday, and
last chance.
And I had this security guy. His name was Benny, little short guy, Puerto Rican kid, and he was, yes, he did. Yeah. Benny passed away, but he had got diabetes, went blind, and it took his life. But, as well as Vicky Burgess, she lost her life as well. She was the little short bartender that also doubled as running around town like a crazy woman, putting out flyers and calendars for everybody.
So did Jim Keller.
Yeah, Jim Keller
Bartender
passed
with the
away. He was a
ponytail.
little bearded guy that that was there. But there was just there was it was just a lot of stuff that went on.
Yeah. I'm still in contact with Dan, the white guy. He's actually coming to my wedding, so
Nice.
he's still around, and his wife.
I haven't seen or heard from Dan in a long time. He was a quiet chap.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Well, maybe you got one more invite.
Sure, why not? We've been to a lot of weddings in our.
I wanted to say, like, because we were talking earlier, like, because you said it was the right time for heavy metal. Like, what were the years of Flashes?
1989 to 1995.
Okay. 94, 95, 90, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
1988, 88 to 94. Yeah, something like that.
That's exactly the time I was in high school.
That's exactly the time the metal hit.
Yeah.
What year? 93.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you're so young.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. You don't. As you get older, you don't hear that as often.
You don't hear that.
Yeah.
Nobody cards me anymore, and then when I do get carded, I'm like, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Either they're half blind or something, right? Exactly. I don't know.
You think I do this on purpose?
Yeah.
And so what? So were you a music fan? Like, I know you said you were an entrepreneur, but like, were there like passion projects like that you would book somebody just because you really liked them, or was there anything like that? Like,
yeah. Yeah, you grew up, of course, first and foremost, I'm a businessman.
right.
But in order to be a good businessman, you have to love your craft.
Right.
And it's never about money. Money happens with passion.
Right.
Money happens with passion. Bands have, every band that walks doesn't do it for the money.
Mm-hmm.
They do it for the passion of it. And that's what you have to find in every job you have. You have to find passion, and you have to have desire to get you out of bed in the morning. Yeah. And the better you do at it, hopefully the more money you make. Right. And so, yeah, there were some bands that I just adored. Just thought they were some of the most, and of course, majority of them are national talent bands, right? Dream Theater is one of my favorite.
Nice.
There's no question.
Yeah.
Technically, being a double degree,
sure.
I'm a double degree engineer, mechanical and electrical engineer.
Oh, so you love the math part of it. Yeah.
I'm very detailed, and hence the reason why Flashes was so damn detailed, down to, especially when it came to impressing national talent. Yeah. And so with that said, the funnest band I ever had, the pleasure of being around. Yeah. Well, there's been a couple, but Sabotage was probably my funnest band.
Nice. They went on to do, the guy went to do Trans-Siberian.
I mean, Paul O'Neill was brilliant.
Yeah.
Chris and John Oliva became we became friends. I mean, and they were a fun. There was a lot of fun bands, man. There really were, but these guys were cool. In fact, the day after.
I think it was the day after.
I think it was the very next morning after. I got a phone call from John, and he's in Florida, and he's just disgruntled as can be because his brother just got killed. Chris got killed by a drunk driver in Florida. He got and he lost his life. Yeah. And Chris and John were the band Sabotage, and John carried through with Paul O'Neill, and they created Trans-Siberian Orchestra, which has experienced great success.
Yeah, to say the least.
And and unfortunately, Trans-Siberian Orchestra's first show was at the Agora because my club had closed. And
it would have been there?
Of course.
Really?
No question.
Oh wow.
And but at the end of the day, they've been recognized in a number of CDs,
Yeah.
that were produced by some bands, on a national level. We were addressed. So I guess we did a few things
That's
right,
cool.
treating people.
I think you did a couple things.
If anybody ever wanted to own a club and just try and emulate that, I would be happy to. I'd be happy to try and teach them the things not to do.
Yeah.
You can't.
I don't think you could ever reproduce that again.
I think it's possible. I can't.
Stars really have to line up, for that to work.
Well, yeah, like you said though. I mean, it was like, it was a really interesting time.
It was a dive bar. Don't try and sugarcoat it. It wasn't like a
No,
palace
but
or anything like
pretty.
that.
It was clean,
No.
decorated nicely.
You thought it was clean?
Oh, the lights were dim.
Well, we tried.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you
Yeah.
dim the lights. Anything's all right.
You tried to, but the risers that were once part of a dance club turned out to be really cool for bands too.
Right.
To be able to see bands, and
Oh my.
I still think that it is capable, but
Did you just have a memory?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just thought of
it
that.
just
Yeah.
something snapped in your head.
Yeah. It's always interesting when you have like a memory you haven't thought of. It's like, where'd that come from? Like, and why didn't I think of that earlier? And
It's okay.
But yeah. I mean, okay. So you had so this is what I wanted to say so you have an engineering degree.
I do.
Okay. So that's interesting. And then you like Dream Theater and it's just interesting to me because that's all math, it's all
technical.
real intricate technical stuff, That's
Well,
really
they're.
cool.
I mean, these are guys that knew each other. Met each other at Berklee School of Music, right?
Right.
And produced a tremendous sound.
Yeah.
I mean, and I've gone and seen a lot of bands since Slash has closed,
Yeah.
and the easiest way to understand or listen to a band is to close your eyes.
Yeah.
And if you hear a harmonic sound and no specific instrument that's pronounced,
Yeah.
if you hear a harmonic sound out of the band, then they're starting to get things right.
Yeah.
But we've seen quite a few bands that once
So
played the
would
club.
You say you're a prog metal fan?
I won't say that. I like a lot of genres of music.
Well, because
I can tell you what some forms of country I don't care for.
I like a lot of old country, actually, like old Hank and stuff like that.
But some of the neat alternative sounds that came out in the 2000 era, 90s and 2000s, from 95 through 2010, some of the finest music it's just fabulous stuff, man.
Well,
What a nice blend of metal and an alternative sound. I mean, Jesus,
yeah, the whole grunge thing and stuff.
Just
And
fabulous
besides
stuff.
Soul, did you have anything from that era go through, or no Alice in Chains or anything like that?
No, we didn't have Alice in Chains. No.
Yeah,
Because that was at that turning point in the music. The glam was
Right.
dying, and the grunge
it was
was
like what,
coming in.
92,
Just
something
starting.
like that. Yeah,
I mean,
93.
like 93.
Starting.
Yeah.
92, 93.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chili Peppers were,
we lost.
getting it going, and I mean, Nirvana was getting it going. I mean, those are bands that were just making this new transition. And it was such a cool transition from straight raw metal to
Right.
this new grungy sound with the lead singer.
What
that
is
was
this?
just, yeah.
Well,
I mean,
which
just
was
so cool.
basically just like 70s classic rock, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in a fun new way, you know what I mean?
It really,
Dirtier and darker.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to because I blurted out that I have a science degree, and I don't want people to go, "Oh, why did he say that?"
No.
Finish that one up.
No, but I have a degree in science, and I was like, okay, that's cool. And then, I'm talking to people that were going for engineering degrees, and that's a lot more work
It really
you know,
was.
and every week, like I'm taking Calc 2 or whatever I'm taking, I'm having like an eye-opening experience. You know, I'm like, wow, oh, that you're seeing these concepts and you're getting it. You know,
Yeah.
I can't even imagine because the work that goes into an
Right.
engineering degree is way more. You know what I mean? And that complicated thinking, that mind, and the fact that you say you like dream theater, I mean, it makes sense to me.
How would, this is my life. I went to Tri-C, then Cleveland State
Same.
for my degrees because I had to put myself through college.
Yeah, that's what I did.
And and I didn't have parents that could afford to give me
Same.
Everything. So I've always had to work.
Is it the the School of Engineering over at
Fenn College of Engineering was my.
That's when it.
Yeah.
Okay,
It was called Fenn back then.
Yeah.
Sorry,
It's
I'm
Fenn
dating
Tower
myself.
now. Yeah.
but I'll tell you, I was working full time and going to school at night.
Yeah.
Around the clock, meaning no summer break. Picking up summer classes, and I got my mechanical degree first, and I was working in the field of material handling logistics, meaning we were designing distribution centers.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of storage media and a lot of conveyance, packing and shipping products. And at the time, my engineering manager said, "Would you be interested in continuing your education? We'll help you pay for it. We could use, since I want to migrate you over into, conveyor design, but you're going to need to get your electrical engineering degree." So I went back to Cleveland State for another equivalent of 2 years for my electrical engineering degree. A lot of courses transferred over, so it was kind of easy. But so I went to school from till I was 28 years old.
Yeah, well,
and I bought flashes bought flashes when I was, this would be 29. I was 33 years old.
Wow. 33. So, yeah, I mean, 33. And yeah,
think about how old you are now. Think about going back.
Thinking about that, yeah, because I'm 33 now.
Yeah, sure you are. Yeah.
But no, that's cool. And then, so, God, I don't know.
I mean, not a lot. I mean, so I wasn't that much older than y'all,
right?
But
I was only in my mid-20s.
She was 8.5 years younger than I. We were just kids trying to make it in a world that we should have got eaten up alive.
I never knew how to do anything.
I mean, you got powerful Italians running the large nightclub industry.
Yeah.
And Belkin Productions has been such a staple at the time, Now Live Nation gobbled up into Live Nation, but all these powerful people, and here's little old me bought this big soapbox, on the west side of Cleveland, and trying to make it work.
Yeah.
Did you got it?
What'd you do? Take out loans or what?
Leveraged everything.
Yeah.
In fact, at the beginning, I had to take out credit cards. I was maxed, man. I was within months of losing everything.
Yeah.
I mean, literally everything.
Yeah.
And probably the biggest mistake I ever made in my life, right?
Yeah.
And then Fugazi came.
Oh, that's what
okay.
changed that.
And then
So that's what put it
treating people, and then I, a couple other acts, Lillian acts came about, and, Trouble came about.
I think Brian Scott also brought in some acts.
Yeah, there was a guy named Brian Scott that was involved. He tried to, but he was, he would buy a band, and when I, we were kind of helping each other, But I mean, there was a lot of people along the way that. You talk about stars being aligned.
Yeah.
One thing I learned in life at a young age is listen.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
You can learn by observation and listening. And I listened to everybody, no matter what their title, no matter what. I would listen to the patrons.
Yeah.
Some of which I let pick up speed on the way through. Everybody's got an opinion, right? But I listened to everybody, and from that formed this at the time. And shit, I guess because I'm here in front of you now, there's been a lot of clubs that have opened and closed, a whole lot of clubs that have opened and closed and tried to do this.
Yeah.
And they don't do it right because they do it. They just don't have, you got to have the pride and respect for people around you. You cannot own and run a facility by yourself. It's impossible.
No, and then the talent. So you said it was who was doing the talent, like bookings?
Me.
It was you.
Me.
Okay, so that's a lot.
It was
a lot because
my day was my day was long. I mean, I would be at the club, right?
Yeah.
Because my darling, now wife of many years, 28 years, 20, how many years?
You better get this.
Help me out there, kiddo. We got married in 94.
29 and a half years.
29 and a half years. That's right. 30 years is coming up.
30 years is coming up.
Sometimers. It happens to all of us.
Hey, my perception of time. So I have no.
But if you just treat people right, and there's people that don't treat you right, you have to forgive them.
Sure.
There's some bands that still play today and there's some comments that are sometimes thrown out on the Flashes page, and MaryAnn actually, had to let go of some people that were on the Flashes page because they were rude, and because they never to this day remembered. I don't want to mention their names.
Yeah, don't mention any names. But what exactly would how?
The
how
girl
would
that accused of not paying the bands what they were worth. They were all starving artists. We all have bills to pay. Right. I asked her, what band did you ever manage? Maybe there was a problem with her management. She said, I didn't manage a band. I just had friends that you were ripping off. And I said, you know what?
There was one.
You have no clue.
There's
third
one
party mention. And then another gentleman who just was not, how do I want to put it? George, help me out, Gio.
There was one or two folks that think that I was in it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
In fact, there was even a comment that was bandied around that I paid bands with cocaine.
Oh. I never got any cocaine. What the hell, man?
Well, you wouldn't get it. You seriously wouldn't get it from me because that's a forbidden fruit in my world.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a day that I had trouble with it.
Yeah.
And that day ended long before Flashes.
Oh, okay.
And that is a forbidden fruit in my world and always has been. Never paid a band with anything but what they had coming to them.
Right.
In cold hard cash. What they did with that cash is not my problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've even had employees steal alcohol from me. Bottles of alcohol to pay. I probably went through 60 bartenders, because they were
a lot in
they were
5 years.
Cash business.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They don't realize, that it's not hard to have a spotter.
I've had
that looks like a heavy metal guy. Come on, it's simple stuff.
Well, I've bartended, and it's definitely goes around that it's like, all managers kind of say there's every bartender's a thief.
I had a guy that was working for me. I won't mention his name. If he's a listener, he'll know who he is. Who stole alcohol to pay his band room practice. It just so happens that practice studio, which was that meatpacking house,
65th Street,
was on West 65th. Other bands that played there were friends of mine.
Oh, you're not talking about Rock and Roll City Studios, are you? Or
no, it was. Maybe it was. I don't know. It was
a meatpacking house at one time.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
65th Street. We're going back 30 years, so
Well, because Rock and Roll City Studios is right over on Walworth and 65th.
Maybe it is that same place today. I don't know, but you know,
Never been there. I don't know.
I got word of it, and I was furious, you know, because I gave this guy the keys to the club to do some marketing work for me.
Yeah.
While I was home talking to talent agencies, as you might surmise, you know, when you're there till, you know, closing 2:00 in the morning, getting home 3, 4 in the morning, the phone's ringing at 8 a.m. in the morning because talent agencies are open in New York. Predominantly talent agencies were New York and L.A.
Yeah.
And if you miss that phone call, you miss the opportunity to get a band. So, yeah, you got a few hours of rest, and that was continuous. So if you want to be successful in this, it takes a lot of hard work.
Lifestyle.
Tell me about Mushroom Head.
Great band.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going by memory, so you know, folks, and you know, Jeff and all the guys from Mushroom Head.
As a you know, when I'm going to say I was like a 15, 16-year-old kid at the time, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
And
bred.
Jeff would be sitting at the bar, you know, and we'd be like, "Oh, that's Jeff."
Yeah. Well, the guy. First of all, all
Jeff
the guys
was
from Mushroom
quiet.
Head.
Jeff was
Yeah,
a very
he was
quiet,
yeah.
but he was very nice. Very nice. He
Yeah,
never.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know what band's doing today, but back in the day, I'm going by
That
memory.
was their first
so
show, wasn't it?
yeah, I
Musicians Night.
I believe so.
It was a musicians' night.
Matrix was playing that night, and
It was a musicians' night. Jeff said, "I have this new band. Can you sign me up on the musicians' night at a certain time so we can get in?" So we kind of had to fudge the list a little because he wanted to see how the kids and how everyone would be receptive to Mushroom Head, which was like a spin-off of Guar at the time,
Right. Yeah.
basically.
yeah. Well, she knew it better than me,
Yeah.
you know, but it bred itself through the band Hatrix.
Well, because I remember they played like after Hatrix. I thought it was like after like a environmental hazard Hatrix show, and then Mushroom Head was like playing after them, and it was like this thing. It's like, "Are you ready for this?" or something. There was a slogan. There was always a slogan. Like environmental hazard had the last night. It was the hard as fuck thing.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah.
It was, you know, everyone's wearing their shirts hard as fuck, and on the screen it was hard as fuck. And
Hey, there was a lot that went on there last night, including Spud Monsters getting naked, you know? Yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on there last night.
Garbage
You
Night
know,
was the last
Garbage
song.
Night. I mean, you know, I didn't care. It was, I was walking away from it the next day, so I didn't really care how much paper was around, you know, but just everybody had a great time and a great experience that lived on, you know? That's what you hope when you throw a party,
I would say it's a legendary part of Cleveland's rock and roll history for sure.
I think so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I mean,
it always gets brought up. You know.
Always. This on this podcast.
Every interview.
Let me get on me. Yeah. It Flashes always comes up.
You know, one of
That and
MaryAnn's favorite band names was SSA.
Oh yeah.
Backwards.
I love
Ass
that.
backwards.
Yeah.
What a great name! I mean, there has been so many bands.
You know, and I don't know if there's a lot of license plates that have SSA
That's
as
Southside
part of their.
Audi.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a car dealership. That does
Well,
that.
no. The actual plate number is SSA.
I've seen that.
Oh, really? Yeah. And every time I think ass backwards.
Yes.
Yeah, and
I
it's a
love
pretty good
that.
band on top of it. You know, good kids.
Yeah.
You know, I
Weren't
mean,
they on the same label you were, Trip?
On Sin Club?
Yeah.
I don't think that.
Okay. I thought they were. I don't know.
Bands that were on Sin Club was Environmental Hazard, Thessalonian Dope Gods. Actually, we're on the same album with Kid Rock before Kid Rock broke. Big.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
it was a compilation. It was a tri-state compilation through Sin Club Records, and the song on there was "I Am the Bull God" or "Bulldog" or something.
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
Bull God, yeah.
Yeah, and we're on the same album with him. All of a sudden, you know, this guy just
Yeah,
blew
got
up out
blown
of
up,
nowhere.
yeah.
You know, I thought he sucked on the CD that we were on.
you know, I mean, you know, I mean, Billy Morris has even, you know, talked to me about wanting to do a a reunion night, and
Oh, that'd be
I said,
cool.
No, it
I
would
mean,
not.
who
No,
It would
come
have
on.
to be days. There's so many different kinds of
and I
music.
com-
Sure,
I
then make it
commend.
a week,
In case
make it a
you guys
month.
don't know, Billy's got a place over on the west side.
Yeah, Revolution, or well, he had a couple
That little
places.
studio thing, but he does live music out
On Thursdays with his
outside. High school. We went up there for some bones, and there was this cool little high school band playing. So he's trying to keep the scene,
Yeah.
moving along.
Yeah, he's definitely a legendary fixture around here too.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, you got to give a shout out for guys still working on it,
Yeah,
man.
the Foundry. I just had the owner of the Foundry,
Yeah.
Ray, on, but yeah, he had
Yeah, before that was the hi-fi.
the Hi-Fi, and he
Jimmy
had
Howard.
that. But he also had that club over on
Red
Brook
Eye?
Park. Was it?
Oh
That was
yeah,
Revolution, right?
Revolutions or something like that.
Yeah,
he
that
did the
probably-
Red Eye right after Flash
Was he the part of the
closed.
Red Eye? I didn't know that.
That was up at a
Yeah.
bowling alley in
Yeah. North
Road.
those, I guess you get into that, and then you realize that, a few weeks into it, it becomes a job, man.
Yeah.
And it becomes hard work, really, really hard work to, keep on throwing a party week after week after week. I mean, when you're doing national talent, and even local talent, I mean, you're putting out a lot of money for a party every single week in hopes that it's people walk away and it's successful, and you make a little money at your craft. But in order for it to perpetuate, people have to leave feeling better than when they got there,
Right.
and that's hard work.
Yeah.
But that's me. That's Flashes.
I
I'll never take credit. You'll never see this man take credit for things you
Wasn't not-
And that's why it's special. Because
you
you're
leave
humble.
with your own impression.
Yeah.
but you facilitated it, So
Yeah.
you made it possible for
Right.
us to walk away with these impressions.
Right.
All I did was give you the vehicle and
You drove it.
and let the bands drive it.
Yeah.
You guys have a night to play, be it a Friday or a Saturday night or a Thursday night to play, and it's your night. Go market yourself, because I'm going to put you in the best light and sound that anybody will. And if you want to make it, be ready, be prepared. Again, my engineering background, be ready, be prepared, and put on a show that impresses, so that the next time those 10 people tell 10 more, and 10 more tell 10 more, and that's how these
before the
bands get
internet.
good.
That was the big thing. That was before the internet.
Sure. Yeah. No, and it's happening like organically and like analog kind of in a way.
Yeah. I mean, all the way down to that crazy photographer that used to go around, take pictures of women and stuff. You'd never get away with that shit today. His name was Craig Anderson, and he came from the club before, and he's not somebody I ever knew. He just showed up and said, "Well, I used to take pictures for the old club owner," and and then we put up, I had this billboard that was kind of in the hallway. And he said, "Can I put my pictures up there?" And MaryAnn or somebody came up with this thing, Cheeks of the Week, And all of a sudden, you walk into the club and you see, all these poses and pictures and stuff, And
Now, how
that
did he
kind
get
of
the girls to drop their drawers? That's a whole nother story.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't do that stuff today.
No, I was going to say that would not fly. You'd be
You
canceled
might get
in
a
a second.
surprise,
Yeah. The club gets closed down today when you do that. I mean,
Things
it
that
was
happened then could never happen now.
Right.
no, but
What
what?
time to be alive.
Yeah.
It's your
and-
childhood.
Yeah.
You know,
Hey, we could celebrate misogyny all day.
it's your childhood.
I'm up for it.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, man.
Oh yeah. So yeah.
Anything else I can answer for you?
Unless Tripp's got something.
I think we covered everything.
I think so.
I mean,
I'm sure there's 10 or 15 other things, but
I can keep this going for another hour.
I look at your jewelry, and I had this jewelry company that came to me and said, "Hey, can I sell some jewelry in your club?" And it's this club. It's called Alchemy or Alchemy
Alchemy.
Jewelry.
that's,
And I said,
One of these.
Sure, but I'm not going to be responsible. But, oh, my God, we had to devote a whole closet because the stuff was just flying for this guy.
We also did Mayfield Music had band supplies.
Mayfield Music was a big contributor.
That's where we got our equipment from when we wanted to battle the bands. Was Mayfield Music.
Yeah,
Corey.
those guys. Corey, rest his soul. I heard he died. And not surprising, he had some pretty bad habits going on. But by the same token, that's how they wanted to. They wanted to participate in this thing. And so I somehow worked them into the gig. Worked them in and battle the bands and and now they do it on a grand scale.
Down
At
at the
Cleveland
Rock and Roll
State
Hall
or
of Fame.
Tri-C or something, right?
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, they do it
At the Hall of Fame. Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think
you guys got something to work
We were
for.
the second one. I think the first one was won by a band called Born Rude.
Yeah.
You may remember them.
Yeah, I mean,
The second one. Some of the bands that were there was Dia Pasan. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember that band.
Was there? Was it? There's so many bands that went through there. It's
I know. Yeah.
mixing up in my head, and I'm having a hard time.
Yeah, I don't even know what the
That's why
and
the things that you posted. Oh,
I'm su-
that's who was on that one.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't ask me why Flashes, why the name Flashes.
Well,
I assumed.
I assumed it was inherited because I thought you said it was already a club.
and that's here's a funny story is I couldn't afford to change the signs,
Oh,
so they stayed the same.
so when
And I'm dead
yeah,
serious.
yeah. what would you have named it?
I don't
We never
know.
had that
I
discussion.
never had that
Yeah.
discussion. I really
I
didn't.
do know a few empty bars right now that need some, little tender love and rock and roll.
Too old
I-
for that now.
I'm a retired guy. If somebody wants to tap into my knowledge,
Yeah.
it's not current, but it's pretty straightforward on how to be successful in this club industry.
Yeah.
And they're pretty basic things, but people don't get. Treat people like people.
Yeah.
Treat them as if it's the old story. You want to be treated as if like you want to be treated.
Right.
Treat people that way and weed out the ones that don't reciprocate.
Yeah. I'm not a religious man, but I was raised Catholic. But one thing I know that the story of Jesus, do unto others as you would do unto yourself.
And
That's
quite
the best
honestly,
advice ever,
that's and I'm not religious either,
Yeah.
but it's the root of the Flash's success.
Yeah.
Is everybody had that same feeling,
Yeah.
and treat people with respect.
I felt like I was at home every time I was in it.
And that was the mission.
Yeah.
If you were able, when you want to go out on any given night, Friday or Saturday night, even with your significant other or girlfriend or whatever, you use your brain first. What do you want to do tonight? Where do you want to go? What do you want to eat? Nobody does anything but first use their brain. If Flashes could pop into their head, what's going on at Flashes? Okay. And they'd call, and yours truly would be the one that would give them the spiel of every week, what was going on. And if they got, and it meshed with their thing, they came, but they had to think of it first. And getting them to do that is very hard.
Yeah. So the Flashes. So it was Flash Gordon's.
Right.
Do I remember correctly? But didn't
Called the real Flash Gordon.
the
That was a deliberation between the old owners. There was originally, and I could be wrong with this, but there was a guy named Flash Gordon, and he was a radio personality or a wannabe radio
Changed
personality.
his name to Flash Gordon.
And he actually changed his name to Flash Gordon.
Okay.
And the
Now,
owners,
was this before or after
Before.
the
No.
movie thing
I don't know.
or the comic?
I'm giving you the history.
Yeah.
I'm giving it a long time ago.
Yeah.
So Flash Gordon and the Fram family came together to create Flash Gordon's, and then there was a family breakup. And the people that retained this club, somebody started another club, and I think Flash Gordon started another club. So he named his club Flash Gordon's, and then they named this thing the real Flash Gordon's. Okay, so there was this thing that went on long before I bought the club.
Okay.
But the only thing I could change was one sign on the back, and I just changed it to Flashes.
Flashes. That's because
I simply changed it to Flashes Concert Club.
The abbreviated version of the name, and even in the art the ads and stuff like that, it said Flashes. It never said Flash Gordon's.
Never.
No.
Yeah, it always said just Flashes.
Yeah.
And there were and sure I would have liked to have changed the name and changed the signage, but it was I was a struggling guy, little 33-year-old guy trying to make his way, and I don't mean that to sound like poor pity me. No, it was true, and
I think back to when I was 33, I was an idiot.
I guess I was too to some level.
And I'm still an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, I gave up a hell of a nice job, and to go after this,
What an incredible result! I think, even though it was a struggle for you guys, what an incredible result in the community that it created.
It really did. I mean, I'd like to expand on that a little bit. I mean, like I said, we're sitting here, we're talking about it. I've been doing this podcast for 4 years now, 3 or 4 years now, and
We're up to like 7 followers now.
what's it? I have like 72. Come on, no, I think I'm up to like to 260.
All right.
260. We are, because you definitely help out quite a bit. So, but I talk to a lot of, local people, and Flashes comes up all the time. There's two things that are like that. I've said come up all the time. It's Jim Kanya and Flash.
Jim's a good guy.
And Bill Peters comes up a lot.
And Bill Peters, yeah.
Bill was a big influence with
Big
me.
help.
Yeah.
He was over at what was it? Was he at John Carroll? I think, right? He had a show at
Yeah.
John Carroll.
No, is it
John
Carroll? Oh, yeah.
John
okay.
Carroll or Case? But I think it was John Carroll. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought it was Case, but yeah, okay.
I mean, he was a very kind man to help me. He was one of my go-to guys when this band come to town. What's the vibe on him? And he was kind enough to help me out. And of course, he had a lifelong pass. Just walk through the doors whenever you want. Because these people that were helpful, of course, I reciprocated by giving him a pass to come in the gate.
He's another, local legend.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes.
We're trying to nail
And
him
a
down,
great guy.
Oh, he would. Have you reached
Yeah,
out
we
to him?
talked to
He'll
him. It's
do
just
it.
kind of hard to get him scheduled. He's dealing with, stuff.
He's a
Busy guy.
And Joe Cleon. I mean,
Joe Cleon.
another guy that, Joe was, I mean, he's still, in fact, we reached out to Joe. We had a friend that adores Bruce Springsteen. And she was, coming up on a birthday, and we didn't know what to get her, and so MaryAnn reached out to Joe to see if he had any photographs
from when he videos
of Bruce, because he does that for a living, right? And he sent us a fabulous 8x10, and she adores that photo, and I mean, he remembered us, and that was nice.
I want to show this. This is the Bill Peters soap.
The metal clean.
Check here.
Was that the Black Pumice bar?
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. Does it smell like Bill Peters? There's a picture of him on the back.
Just
too.
like Bill Peters.
There's a nice picture of him on the back there. A young picture of Bill Peters.
Yeah, that's a young picture of Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But great people. These are the people that Honest Engine are part of the makeup of what you guys think me. That I created. It's not just me.
Well, yeah. I
It's
mean, you're very humble, and that's endearing. I mean, for sure. But I mean, we know you did too. So.
Behind, there's a part of me that is as competitive, as ruthless, as tough as nails.
Yeah.
You have to be when you're going up against some very wealthy, powerful people that want to buy these shows.
Right.
And when you get to a point where you've done your job well enough, and talent agencies and the record labels say they want the show done at Flashes, and Geo, just give me, this is the bid. If you want the show, you got to bid here, and I really want you to bid here. You know what I'm saying? Kind of stuff. You've earned some respect, and these are national talent agencies that do some of the biggest bands on the planet, and I miss those people in those days, and I miss you all, to be honest with you.
I mean, everything about what you guys had going on.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to be able to.
Met some good people.
If anybody out there wants to, do a club, and if I get a chance to meet them and they are respectful enough to want to learn a little of that stuff,
So
I'll be there.
I mean, I might be coming at you with that, but but I just had a thought, because I just learned recently. I know I should have known this, but like the Beatles' career was 7 years. 7 years, and they had that much influence,
Right.
and they put out a large amount, and the progression they made within that 7 years was amazing. I mean, I don't think that can ever be reproduced.
Nope.
And I think there's a direct correlation to Flashes, is it learning the 5 years that it existed and how much of an impact that it actually had. I think that's
I'd love to see
Beatles
somebody
scale.
do that again. I want to see somebody. I want to see somebody have do it again.
Yeah.
And because I think this city is, we're the center of rock and roll, and we need to do a better job with our local talent.
I agree.
And
there's bands that skip Cleveland.
A lot of bands skip Cleveland.
Yeah.
I mean, not the big bands, but there were MaryAnn knows this. We got called. We went, to Columbus. We went to Detroit because they wanted me to help them in doing it was the El La Rosa down in Columbus. I can't remember the one in Detroit. Harpo's. Big places, that wanted me to buy for them a 3-stop arrangement. And I went and visited the Detroit place and came away with a no, because they just didn't have it, wasn't right.
The neighborhood was
just
shady
wasn't right.
with.
But bands from, I'd love to see local bands want to come to Cleveland, move to Cleveland, because the scene is that strong.
Right.
Give where they can come and give
like it was back then. Like you said, in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, stuff like that. Bands would love. We just went to go see Mastodon, and they even said, they used to come to Cleveland just because they were the only. They would feel loved. You know what I mean?
Well, what do you think of Nashville when you think of Nashville?
Country music.
Why can't you think of rock and roll being Cleveland?
Well, I know. Well, Nashville is now.
We're supposed to be the rock and roll capital.
They don't even.
Right.
I mean,
Who has all the metal? What city does all the metal?
Milwaukee.
Is it Milwaukee?
I don't know. I'm just making that up, but it seems Milwaukee.
It
metal,
seems it's not just metal. It's just the grunge scene. I mean,
I think it's just the whole
local scene. I mean, you put a band in a corner of a room. I just was at this place called the Union House this past week to see a band.
Yeah.
They put a band on this 1 foot tall stage, and they're stuck in a corner over there. The amps are the amps overpower the vocals, because they don't need to mic the amps because the place is so small and the amps are too high, and it was just a nightmare. But I mean, you're never going to be noticed, or be able to, bring any a band can't make it in a corner. You can start there, but where does the next step? Where's the step to a Flashes
right
in Cleveland right now?
Well, I mean, there's. I was just gonna say. I mean, I see like No Class, like all the. I think it's awesome that there's like a bunch of women-owned bars. You had Fantasy right there. You have Ray's got the Foundry now, and then you have No Class. And then like all that in that area. I mean, the Fantasy has always been the complex. Like they had the symposium, the theater,
Yeah.
whatever.
And no place
trying
to
to get
park,
her on,
and
you know.
Yeah. But
Yeah, Lakewood's terrible for parking.
terrible. For
awful.
It's terrible for your guests.
Yeah.
You got to look at your band as
Yeah.
you're hosting a party at this place. How is it for your guests to come?
Right.
And it's tough for them to come.
There was only, there was one place that had the potential to be something close to Flashes, and me and you did a lot of promotional work for it. Was the Jigsaw?
Yeah.
And it was a very
the
similar
Jigsaw.
room.
Yeah, we
Very
went there.
similar room, you
Phil
know.
Lara, he made a lot of enemies around town.
you know.
But it did. You're right. It had the cape.
That's the
It
place
had-
that was a bowling alley,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
He came
Parking-
in for the
decent
wrong
parking
reasons, and
across
that's
the
what
street.
happened,
Yep.
You know.
If he came
What did
in
he
for
do?
the wrong,
He came in for the wrong reasons. He wanted to live the rock star lifestyle.
Yeah, he was. He would like. I'd go in there. I'd do a lot of the flyers, for in there, and
I'd
he
bring
did a lot of
bands.
promotions and stuff like that. Put on shows and art shows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And but I go in there and he's just partying. He's like, "Here, yeah, it's all on me." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Phil, don't.
You can't
I'll
make
pay
money
for
doing
it.
that.
I don't think you.
You
You
know-
know what I mean?
I couldn't walk in that building and buy a beer or food. He'd say, "Oh, it's on me. It's on me."
Yeah.
It's like you can't do that, man. You know. And then you get a band that brings like 5 people, and he comps everything to them, and it's like, how you making money doing this, man? You know?
Well, he
Did-
made
you
a
gotta
lot of
keep
money
going
in the
to-
medical.
I got a
supply
question
whatever.
for
Okay.
you specifically.
Okay.
When's the last time when during the club days, I'm going back 30 years, so you got to bounce your memory, that you saw me out on the floor partying
Never.
during the time
Yeah,
that there was
never.
a show going on?
Never.
Right.
No, you're always back in the office or something.
Back in the office.
He wasn't allowed to come out on the floor. He'd come behind the bar, and
The
I'd
only
have
time I
to
really see
shush him away.
you would be out on the floor.
I
She
didn't have a
ran
choice.
the bar.
Yeah.
She had to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But only time I really seen you was signing contracts for
Business.
shows.
Business.
And, so.
He
Yeah,
would
that's
just get
part
in
of
the way
that's
behind the
that's
bar.
you got it. Part you can't get caught up
Right.
in that
Right.
in the party atmosphere and run a business.
Right.
It is hard. That's why it's so hard work.
Yeah.
And that's where everybody fails.
That place had potential, with Phil, but again, he's out on the floor, partying it up, living the rock star lifestyle. And to my knowledge, it wasn't his money; it was someone else's money.
Oh, is that right?
invested. So
That was a nice little place,
it
though.
was great.
Yeah,
It was awesome. It was a really cool
Parma,
spot.
right
Yeah.
where the
And
Right
it
by the
was almost
freeway.
recreating
No.
that Flashes. Like you said, it was almost
It had the
recreating
potential
that.
to be that, but
Yeah.
We had good food next door.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they had the potential, but something caused it to fail.
Someone that didn't have the mathematical mind that you have.
And you know what? And
Nah,
he
yeah.
almost
you
took
could have
down.
ran something like that, and it'd have been perfect for you guys, especially because you didn't have to have a show every night. You had the restaurant side there with good food. You had that steady clientele, people coming in, just
Yeah.
regulars, and that's where they ate. And drank
If
every
you
night.
do open up a club today, it does take what I call the magic triangle. Magic triangle is admissions, food, and
Talent.
Yeah.
and entertainment.
Entertainment.
Talent.
Yeah.
The
You got to create the magic triangle. Your bar is and food and admissions is your financial triangle.
right.
Each one of them has to be a functional
Right.
thing. We had a little bit of food in ours. We had hot dogs, pizzas, and
Remember
stuff
that.
for those stoners that had the munchies, right? Yeah, and they
When they come out of the park,
Yeah.
hey,
I am stoned and you got hot dogs? Oh yeah, I'm on it. Yeah, but yeah, it was strategic as all hell that you serve popcorn, hot dogs, and little pizzas. But the hot dogs and the popcorn flew.
Yeah.
Why? I mean, everybody's having a good time. They're stoned. They just got high. It's okay,
popcorn
on
the bar.
Sure.
You eat that salt. Well, what do you rinse it
Yeah,
down?
drink
with
more.
beer.
I mean, I did that. I did some benefits. I did the benefit for Make a Wish, and we were proudly be able to make a wish for a child, and Salvation Army. We won an award for that, and Harbor Light, and we did a lot of little things, benefits and such
Yeah.
for the city, for the city and
Yeah.
for things that we believed in. We actually did a benefit for Normal.
Oh, nice.
National Organization for the Reform of Art. You know, David Peel was the headliner. He was a studio musician for the Beatles, and it never got to David Peel because the city was absolutely sure that it was going to be a pot-filled room.
Because I kind of forget that is Cleveland over there.
It is, yeah.
You know,
It's the far outskirts of.
Yeah, it's like a little.
You go just a little bit further, it's Rocky River.
Yeah,
but
or Fairview Park or whatever.
Fairview Park, but the bottom line was on that particular day. This is a true story. My doorman. Well, we confiscated everybody's paraphernalia at the door.
They could pick it up when they left.
They could pick it up on their way out.
That's cool. You know,
swear to God, you could pick it up on your way out.
That's even a cool thing. Yeah.
Well, you could, if it's back then it wasn't as, I mean, there was an honest thing,
Yeah.
I mean, what's in your pocket, man?
Yeah.
Well,
drop it off because we're holding a party here that I am certain is going to bring the police because of what it is. The benefit is for.
We didn't want anybody
it's
to
for
get
those
popped.
guys. Those guys on the near west side that had a little office for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
It's like you don't really hear about those guys too much anymore because it's like pretty much common.
It's going to become legal soon.
You can go on an airplane. You can go through security at an airport with weed on you, and they don't care.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I wish I'd have known that.
They actually TSA actually put out a thing and they said we're not looking for your weed.
Yeah.
Because all the states got different laws and how do they keep up with it, and it's still illegal.
Yeah.
They say, hey, bottom line, it's still illegal, but I mean, they're like, we're looking for bombs.
Well,
we're not looking for weed.
I personally,
bombs, not
personally,
bombs.
I think it's going to become legalized. At least the voters step this coming November.
Yeah,
it's a no brainer that it's going to be. It's going to become.
It's like it grows naturally.
It's time.
It's nothing. There's nothing like why it's illegal is beyond me. I mean, I know why it is. I mean,
I do too. I've got my opinions on it. And as well, I have my opinions on other things that I have falsely been accused of, and I'll keep those opinions to myself at this time.
Well, it's never a good idea. When I was younger, it was a lot more attractive. It's like now it just seems like.
Well, you can't
it just makes me a little lazy, and
you can't walk into a restaurant or a movie or outside without smelling it. Someone's smoking it somewhere, everywhere.
There just can't be that many skunks in this town, right?
You're a stoner when you smell a skunk, you go,
Is it a skunk? And you turn the corner, and there's a little fuzzy animal that's about ready to,
Well, hey, I'm gonna officially wrap this up. Okay. But, man, I'll tell you what, I could go much longer. Maybe we'll have you back. I was thinking about having like combos, like having this person and this person, like and see how everyone reacts. You know what I mean? So if that's something you'd be interested in, that's fine. But I might call you for some business advice too. But man, dude,
don't do it.
Thank you. Don't do it. Thank you so much for stopping, dude. This is really important to me.
I have done something for you, my friend, that I have not done in almost 30 years.
I am so grateful. I'm just, even if we didn't do this, just to sit here and talk to you.
Yeah.
How long I haven't seen you guys,
Yeah.
And
it's just the mutual respect for people that I guess I hope you walk away with a different feeling than you might have had before I walked.
I have
through
a
the
better.
door.
It's like the
Even
same
more of an
feeling, but
appreciation.
better.
Yeah. I have even more of an appreciation because I didn't know the struggles you went through.
Yeah, right.
To have that, atmosphere that I grew up in.
Yeah.
I didn't know, you were almost bankrupt.
Yeah.
Within weeks.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Just
like, I'm
just
having the time of my life, and this guy, and you're struggling.
Yeah.
We made it work. We made it work.
Yeah, we somehow, some way, but If you ever want to get into this business, get ready to put in a 18-hour day every day. And that includes Saturdays and Sundays. If you don't do that, you will not.
You'll fail.
It's not a second
You will
job.
fail.
It is your full.
It is a full-time job.
Yeah. More than full time. Right.
If you consider an 8-hour day job full-time, yes, you'll be doing the work of 2. All right. See you later, guys.
Yeah. No, thank you so
Thank you very
much.
much.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Sub CLE, we are